You guys know what I did today? That was really weird. I went on a jog. I just got back from a jog. 25 minutes.
What?
Jogging around, and my legs are so sore right now. I feel weird about it. Yeah.
You've changed.
I know, dude. Once you retire from football, I already said this. When you retire from football, you can either get fat or skinny. And
no, you can. No, those are not your only options. Either way, you lose all your respect. Just maintain. Just keep taking creatine and just maintain your weight. You don't have to go on a David Goggins jog.
Creatine. Gosh. All right. Well, let's see. All right. Just so you guys know, if I start looking a little trim, it's because I'm going on jogs here. Okay. We got to talk about some stuff. We got to talk about football. We got to talk about NBA basketball. Klay Thompson returning and playing against the Warriors for the first time as a Maverick. We got college football drama with the rankings. We got Monday Night Football. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about, Mike. I know you want to talk about me jogging, and everyone wants to hear about that, but we'll put a pin in it. And how about we put a pin in it? There you go. Good corporate speech.
We'll circle back.
I had a job once.
Hey,
it was very, very short-lived.
Didn't get fired. You got let go. It's different.
It was a dishonorable discharge from the office.
There we go. Happy Veterans Day weekend. Okay, let's start it off. Here we go. Monday Night Football. We've got two real sunny teams, the Rams and the Dolphins showdown. This was an interesting game, kind of a boring game by some accounts because the Rams were unable to score a touchdown. What they had? I think they had 5 field goals. Final score was 15-23. There were some flashes from the Dolphins and from Tua, but the craziest thing I think coming away from this game is the fact that, okay, the Dolphins came into this game at 2-6, and after winning this game, they are now reasonably in the playoff conversation. People are throwing that out there that the Miami Dolphins, now sitting at 3-6, might be in the playoff conversation. Scott, what are your thoughts on this game? The fact that the Rams could not score a touchdown with all the talent that they have, and kind of Tua being back on the field and the situation with the Dolphins.
Yeah, this one was nuts, man. I don't understand what's going on with the Rams, right? So it was understandable in the first part of the season, right? When they lost Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp to injury, and all they were doing was just relying on Matthew Stafford's arm and intelligence, as well as Williams, the running back out of Notre Dame in the backfield, who's had a great year so far. But ultimately, when you're just relying on those two dudes, you're not going to have much offensive production. So what was it, last week or the week before, Puka and Cooper came back. It looked like they started hitting their stride and coming back to prominence. But this was a weird setback where there was no sort of cadence or cohesion to what they were doing offensively. And I mean, we were talking about it last episode. This is where kickers make their money, right? So you're actually putting points on the board when the offense isn't really doing their job or producing. So I don't know. Something's going on in LA. And I think ultimately what's happening is their, F the picks sort of move a couple of years ago in order to win the Super Bowl that following year. I think it's coming back to bite them, right? So like, their entire organization is running on fumes of that Super Bowl winning year. And I got to wonder, like, is a Super Bowl win worth it when you decimate your organization for what's probably a 5 to 7 year stretch? Do you guys think that's worth it?
It's a good question.
Of course.
That is really,
that's the name of the game, the championship. Everything else is
surprise there whatsoever that's Mikey's answer.
Nobody cares about anything except the championship.
Is it worth it then to just be mediocre to subpar and kind of weird and boring to watch then for the next 5 to 7 years? That's a good question. I do actually, Mikey, I agree with you. I think it is worth it, but these are the consequences for that. I mean, people were talking seriously about that. I mean, they just went all in, dishing out all of their picks, having no draft capital for just years now. Now we're seeing that roster also getting a bit older, like Matthew Stafford, one of the older quarterbacks in the league, Cooper Kupp. I don't know how. I think he's 32, 33. It's kind of old for a wide receiver, and he's had injury problems. Yeah. And so we're kind of seeing the tail end of that. And now are they cursed to mediocrity until they can rebuild and kind of get through this? But I mean, with all that said, though, dude, it is worth it to win a Super Bowl. It is worth it. Yeah. Like if you were able to do that, it's just a big gamble. It's a big gamble. You're going all in. They hit the jackpots. And now they got to wait around a little bit and re-buy in over the coming years. But I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's worth it?
I posed the question, right, and just to spur this conversation, because it's an interesting thought experiment, right? But I would do the exact same thing if I was in the position of the GM Barry at the Browns. Sell the farm, which they tried to do with Deshaun Watson, but they sold way too much and they got nothing out of it. So like, I would absolutely have loved to have been the LA Rams and doing that as a Browns fan. So I mean, it's one of those things, especially with a city that hasn't experienced the Super Bowl in a long time. Like, yeah, it's probably worth it. And I'm sure that the majority, if not 99% of Rams fans would agree. It's just tough when reality sets in after the heights and you're just down in the valley once again. And then you start questioning, you start maybe having regrets, which is hilarious because you won a Super Bowl. So I don't know. It's crazy, but coming from a Browns fan, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Hey, maybe the Browns can pull a page out of that playbook and get rid of Deshaun Watson and, clean house and go all in, just like the Rams did. Well, did that make, I think,
did they keep the receipt for Deshaun? $230 million. Hi, I have a return.
No returns.
No returns.
What is the warranty policy on that?
Strict no return policy. Sadly, that's called buyer's remorse. But did that not make Sean McVay the youngest head coach to win a Super Bowl, or at least one of the youngest head coaches to win a Super Bowl, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe that's right. Because didn't he take the helm of the Rams when he was like 32, 33, which is nuts.
Dude, he was absolutely nuts. He was 31. He was younger than I am right now. I'm a loser. Oh. I have not coached any NFL teams as a head coach. Zero. It's embarrassing. So, you know what? I don't want to talk about this anymore. Doesn't that always like kind of make you feel a little sad when you hear about somebody having huge accomplishments, then you realize they're younger than you when they did it?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, there's no other way to say that. It's like, I understand you're not supposed to compare yourself to other people. That's just the mantra of today's mental health messaging. But like, at the same time, like, come on, that's impressive as all get out.
Yeah,
I still have some time. I have 6 years to get there.
Clock's ticking.
Okay, Mike, what is it?
I gotta buy a whistle.
Okay, good. You got to start off. Get him a whistle and a hat, and you are well on your way to coaching a Super Bowl winning team. All right, so this was in Monday, but actually, like back onto the field. You know what was actually making the difference? The Rams could not convert at all on third down. Which is, I think they were 2 for 12 or 2 for 11, whereas the Dolphins were 9 for 12. Like Tua was great on third down, and this kind of ended up making the difference in the game. I mean, like kind of on those clutch money downs, which is surprising coming from an experienced receiver quarterback duo like Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford. But that was kind of ultimately the difference, like not being able to convert on third down, and then you'd having to settle for field goal over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out though to the Rams kicker. What's his name? Joshua Carty, 5 for 6. Pretty good day out there for him. But Mikey, I know there's a special part of this game that you really, really wanted to talk about with your buddy Tua. And I think it is time for Mikey's marvelous minute.
That's what I'm talking about. Time to beat the dead horse, as they say. Here's what we got. Let me open up with this. All of the best teams are self-policed. And then one step further, the best players on those teams are also self-policed themselves. Now, Tua, he makes a little mistake. He throws an interception. Okay, no problem. Instead of waiting for the coaches to say anything, he goes out and he punishes himself like he's Dobby the Elf. Okay, bad Dobby. And he throws his head into traffic right onto that precious little brain of his and gets a little, we got Tua, Dobby the Elf, Tagovailoa. Here's his floppy neck. He has the infant neck syndrome. Okay, he needs to do some neck exercises, stabilize, get some strength back in it. But at a certain point, his mother's going to call Roger and just say, Roger, we got to get him some more protection. We got to get him wrapped up, maybe some bubble wrap like that kid from Little Giants. And but it is inspirational to see this self-policing aspect of the Dolphins. That's why they're getting back in the playoff conversation.
There you go, Mike.
Huh? Nice, Mike.
Okay,
that? And I stood still the whole time.
Well, I could tell it was taking a lot of mental effort for you to stand in the middle of the frame.
Just nervous swaying, no more.
Oh man!
You know what? We need to get you. We can get you some like clip-in shoes that clip into the ground so you can't sway back and forth.
Good idea. Some cylinder blocks.
Good invention. Yeah, there we go. All right, take a look here. We have got Tua coming out to make the tackle. All right, Scott, this is something that I was actually dying to ask you when I saw this. Obviously, okay, Tua throws the pick. Throwing an interception is the absolute worst thing that you can do as a quarterback. It's the equivalent of me as a linebacker missing an open field tackle and then going down for a touchdown. So as a quarterback, like we see this sometimes where quarterbacks, after they throw the pick, which is ironic because that in itself is oftentimes a lapse in judgment, then they show an additional lapse in judgment by going to try to make a big tackle. We saw it a couple of years ago, actually, with Baker Mayfield coming in and actually injuring his shoulder when he tried to tackle the guy who picked him off. And Tua here, after all this conversation has been about his concussions and his brain safety and everything. And like a few weeks ago on the show, we were talking about, should this guy retire? Thankfully, he's back on the field and he's healthy. But we see him right here going on in, lowering his head, trying to make the tackle.
Yeah.
As something that I would say is kind of a lapse of judgment there. Scott, as a quarterback, what's the mindset like here? I mean, when you throw a pick, you're obviously super upset. I mean, is this understandable from Tua or is it just plain stupid?
Yeah, look, this is ultimately everything that came out post his latest concussion and everything, how he spoke to how he wanted to get back out on the field and how he's a football player through and through. And there was no hesitation in him saying, I'm returning, I'm not retiring, like kind of thing. This is just a manifestation of that, that same sort of thought process. He's just bringing it out on the field. He's clearly a competitor. So yes, he's probably absolutely furious that he threw that pick, one, and then two, coming off of it, it's just like, I don't care what position I am. I'm going to do what is needed for the team within the confines of the game. I'm going to go make that tackle if I got an opportunity. Now, is it the most prudent thing for that guy, that individual to do? Probably not, based on what's going on. And I've said this before, like, I think if in that situation he had gotten another concussion, especially with the way in which he went down toward the knee, he could easily take in a knee to the ear hole. We could have been in the whole situation once again on prime time. I think he's going to get pressure from the NFL being like, hey, and McDaniels, the coach. I think he's just going to be told, dude, just walk away. Just don't even approach the tackle. Don't even approach the runner. But all in all, the other flip side to this is that he did potentially save a touchdown, which ultimately helped them win the game. So he's looking at it from a football perspective, right? And he's probably hanging his hat on that. It's like, hey, that one tackle, even though I threw the pick, I actually ended up helping the team win the game, and we're in the playoff hunt, even at 3-6, battling it out with the Bears, the Bengals, and the Colts for that 7th spot. So I don't know. There are a lot of different ways you can take this, but it's just, of course it was Tua. Of course it was going to be him in prime time doing this, and people are going to freak out.
He's a martyr. It's inspirational. He wants to go down with the ship.
The Pope should be tweeting about Tua and the Dolphins instead of the Saints. That's where the Pope should be tweeting. Pope Francis. I mean, all fair points, Scott. Very fair points. I'm a little bit torn because one could argue that this is actually an incredibly selfish move for a quarterback to do this because, okay, you throw the interception and this is you as an individual trying to make, of course you're helping the team, but it's you trying to get your personal redemption on the guy that picked you off and you go make the tackle. I'm not saying that I believe this, but this could be an argument made that it is a little bit selfish. Maybe I'm a little bit traumatized by kind of what happened with Baker Mayfield a few years ago because that felt
traumatized.
Specifically like
it happened when he was on the Browns.
You're traumatized. Scott's still in therapy.
That's why we're here today,
started
Scott.
As a child.
We're gonna work through these traumas, Scott. So I don't know. He did. You're right. He saved the touchdown, but one could argue also it's a little bit selfish to get kind of that personal revenge or vendetta there. But let's take a look here at why the Dolphins are actually now possibly in the playoff conversation. Hold on, let me share this.
Yeah.
Hold on here. There we go. It's coming up. One moment. There we go. All right. So take a look here. Dolphins, they went on a slide when Tua was out. Now that he's back, okay, they just beat the Los Angeles Rams. Their next games, they've got Las Vegas, they've got New England, a little bit easier. They've got Green Bay. That's a challenging one. That's at Lambeau, too. This is especially difficult, I think, for a warm weather team like Miami to try and go up to Lambeau Field, playing out in the open in, when is that? End of November. Okay, but then they've got Houston. That's another formidable opponent, but that's indoors. Yeah. So weather won't be a factor there. San Francisco, they've got them at home. We'll see how San Francisco plays out for these next few games, see what type of team they are at this point. And they've got the Browns. Easy win. Anytime anyone's got the Browns.
Hey. We are down but frisky. We can do any given Sunday, baby.
That's a new word, Sunday. Frisky? Let me pull up the old dictionary again.
He said frisky, Mike. I know that thick Ohio accent of Scott's is hard to understand.
How do you sound frisky like
that? Just the way I talk. What do you think about the remaining of this schedule? Is this playoff conversation, Scott? Is this realistic, or is this kind of just grabbing at straws here?
You know what? It's really hard. It's really hard to say that it's unrealistic strictly because I believe in McDaniels and his offensive scheme, especially when he has his tools at his disposal, right? So Tua's back. He's going to get back into form prior to his 4-week hiatus there with the concussion. It's just a matter of time until he gets there. So it's hard to count out McDaniels and when he has all of those tools, but at the same time, those are some formidable opponents. And I don't know if even at their best, the Dolphins can withstand the onslaught week after week of that sort of lineup, right? And I also think I mentioned before, they're going up against the Broncos, the Colts, and the Bengals for that 7th spot. And really, you got to kind of look and see like what their schedules are and how they're performing. And honestly, I said it last episode, the way in which Joe Burrow walked off that field after that heartbreaking loss to Lamar Jackson, I think that psycho flip just switched in his mind, and he's going to go tunnel vision and go scorched earth on everybody for the rest of the season. So I actually have high hopes for the Bengals. Hopes. I mean, I have high expectations for the Bengals moving forward that they're going to be the ones to pull this out and ultimately take that 7th spot. That's not to say that the Dolphins won't be in the hunt. I just think they have a Mount Everest to climb as opposed to a smaller molehill that, say, the Bengals have with a guy like Burrow behind center.
It is a good point there with Burrow because, I saw that too, and we saw that on the sideline, him locking in. It seems like a switch has been flipped, but we have seen Joe Burrow play outside of his mind incredible games, throwing for 5 touchdowns, no picks, 450 yards, and the team still lose. So it's almost, Joe Burrow can play outside his mind, play incredible football, and still be held back by the remainder of his team. So I'm with you on Joe Burrow, but the Bengals have proven to kind of hold him back a little bit there.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and only insofar as look, each of those losses that he's put up massive numbers. I think they're both against Lamar. If not at least one of them, obviously this previous week, but he's going up against some serious competition.
True.
And when he does put up those numbers. So it may be a misplay here or a missed tackle there on defense that ultimately was the deciding factor of that game. Or you're just playing somebody who's going to be Mount Rushmore quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who can extend a play to 20 seconds and then gain 45 yards when it should have been a 20-yard sack. So it's kind of a mix of a couple different things, but ultimately I think that's what's going to harden Burrow. Even more so than, say, Tua and the Dolphins, who are just getting back on track or trying to get their feet underneath them again. I think the Bengals going through the season that they've already gone through and going through those trials and tribulations already and still having a shot, I think is what's ultimately going to take them to that next level.
No, I think that's fair. I agree with that. I mean, we're going to see. They've got potential there. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. At least that there is hope for these squads here in the AFC. How about a team that has absolutely no hope and is abysmal and everything is devastating, looking bad? The Chicago Bears, dude. Oh. Bears, this was kind of expected, but they got rid of their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, fired him this week after they lost once again. This was expected, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Caleb Williams has been on a slide, And is this fair? Is this the correct move, or is this a scapegoat move by the Bears?
This is a scapegoat. Actually, no. Look, I don't think Waldron's offense really performed out well. He was coming from Seattle the year prior. He was brought in to help bring Caleb Williams into the NFL, shape him, mold him, get him prepared for everything for this season. Ultimately, that didn't come to fruition. And there was a clip out there of Jackson Smith and Njigba, who, when asked about like, oh, the Bears just took this offensive coordinator from you guys, Jackson Smith was just like, is this live? Like, so he didn't have a clear answer for like, oh, this was a great hire by them. I'm sad that they stole our dude kind of thing. So that was damning in and of itself. It ultimately came to fruition here with how Caleb has been performing so far. I mean, we're 10 games in, they're 4-6, I believe. And it's hilarious because I bring this up again. He texted the punter, I believe it was Tory Taylor, the same night he was drafted and said, you're not going to be punting that much. Well, Tory Taylor has more punting yards this year than Caleb Williams has passing yards. He's punted 45 times. And then secondarily, what's crazy is it's like people point to, oh, okay, the Bears have a really bad offensive line, and that's the reason why Caleb's not performing well. It's like, that's part of the equation. But also, if you look at the stats, right, the Bears have the most sacks. I think it's 27 sacks of plays that go longer than 4 or more seconds, right? So like that means that Caleb is back there and doing whatever he does or whatever he did in college and creating havoc for those offensive linemen to where they cannot perform in the same way. When you get a quarterback that's just running around with his head cut off seemingly, or just trying to avoid people, or not knowing where to go and trying to create something because there's indecision, that creates havoc for the offensive lineman. So it's a multitude of factors here. And his accuracy just decreases, Caleb's does, when he's outside of the pocket and doing all that stuff. So it's very different than, say, Lamar, when I was just talking about how he can extend a play wildly, because his accuracy is just increasing and improving each year he does this. This is a dumpster fire and a half in Chicago. I think they scapegoated the guy. Ultimately, it's Eberflus, and that organization is just a debacle through and through.
You got a lot of good nicknames. You got Eberflus, you got Jared Goof. You're there. You go, Scott.
It's early in the morning. My brain's actually moving.
You're like a high school bully. My high school bully.
You're like a traditional 1980s high school bully. Way to go, Scott. Fun fact: Caleb Williams has been sacked the 5th most times for any player in NFL history through 10 games. So, like,
still breaking records.
He is a record-setting rookie quarterback. I mean, this is interesting. A lot of blame. This is kind of possibly could be a scapegoat situation with the OC getting fired. I mean, they're having Thomas Brown be promoted to the OC, who is currently the passing game coordinator. Well, the passing game is not working with the Bears. So you're going to promote the passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator. I don't really love that. I know you oftentimes are promoting internally, or always promoting internally when this kind of stuff happens in season. But the passing game has been a massive problem. And yeah, man, I mean, I'm just watching some clips of Caleb and I've been watching some offensive linemen break down, like offensive lineman podcasts where they break down the pockets and what's going on here. And Caleb not stepping up well, not having a good sense in the pockets, opportunities here where you can step up and they're actually having a clean pocket and he's just not doing it, or he just flushes himself out. So it's very much like he's falling back to his college habits, stuff that did work in college, of course. And like, that's why we were so excited about him, because we see those flashes, but it just does not translate 1-to-1 to the NFL. And another interesting thing is, like, he actually has, like, in this slide, he has not thrown any picks, but he's also not thrown any touchdowns. I think the last 3 games he's done no touchdowns, no picks. So it's just like
he's done nothing.
He's just been completely neutralized. It's like he's not even trying for throws that could possibly turn into touchdowns and playing at least being a little bit of a gunslinger here. It's just doing nothing. And so this is just, dude, why does this always happen with the Bears?
It's organizational issues. I mean, again, I'll speak to the Browns. It's very clear we've had 2 decades straight of just dumpster fire times 2. Dumpster fire times 2. This is dumpster fire 1.5 here for Chicago. Like, I don't understand why they can't recognize where their faults are and look themselves in the mirror and understand, hey, we may be the problem, right? The front office individuals. Some people could say like, oh, this is the Hard Knocks curse, right? Anybody who goes on preseason Hard Knocks or Hard Knocks at all ultimately has a setback in their year as in the lead up to it. So that could be part of it. In terms of just, it's hard to blame Caleb, right? When you haven't been developed properly at the beginning. And you're in a situation where it's high tension, decisions need to be made on a fly. So he's ultimately falling back to his base nature as a quarterback, is just like, hey, I got to rely on my athleticism because things are just moving. I don't necessarily understand what's going on. So I'm going to do what I need to do to try and succeed because it's been successful in the past. So it's hard to blame him outright. Right. Because he just may not have the people in the locker room or in the organization to help him take that next step. So that's why I always say like Eberfloof or Ebergoof or anything like that. Cause I just don't get the sense that while he may be a good guy, I don't get the sense that he's the best developer of talent or can bring in the people who are the best at that. So that's kind of where it sits. And that's why I feel like the Bears are just in this situation year in, year out.
It's always a sign of a good organization that when they're questioned about the performance, they blame a curse. We're cursed. The Hard Knocks curse. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
It's voodoo.
No.
Anyway, next question.
Well, it's obviously the curse.
The curse.
We are burdened by a 100-year curse. Apparently, players in the locker room were pushing for Caleb to be benched before firing Shane Waldron. So this is coming out. There's been reports about this. They wanted the undrafted free agent Tyson Bagent, or Bagent, however you pronounce his name. How do you say it?
Bagent. You've been in Europe too long.
Thanks. I didn't.
You've been adding emphasis on wrong letters.
I've been in Europe too long, so I went with like the European pronunciation. I'm so sorry for my lack of culture. Apologize. But I mean, this is also a terrible, terrible sign here. I feel bad for Caleb. I mean, because you people talk about there's a theory out there called the Mahomes to the Bears theory, where like even if Patrick Mahomes got drafted by the Bears and went to the Bears, his career would look wildly different. He would possibly be running into some of these same exact issues that Caleb Williams is. I mean, no one would argue against the fact that Caleb Williams is an incredible talent. A lot of people call him a generational talent, but when you're in an organization like this that doesn't really support a young quarterback like this, and there's a bunch of older quarterbacks talking about this, and we talked about this on the show a few times of how the NFL is so impatient with young quarterbacks right now, and the expectations are just so high so quickly. You're putting a lot of them, especially ones who go to kind of lackluster organizations, you're putting them in position to fail. And I mean, it's honestly sad to see, because that's just going to cripple their confidence, something that will take years to recover if it ever does recover. I mean, we saw a couple quarterbacks kind of come out of that, like with Baker this year, but that's something that I really worry about for a guy like Caleb Williams, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, the guy has a bravado and a confidence, at least that he shows outwardly, that I hope is an internal confidence as well, because he's going to need it at this point in time. He's definitely in the thick of it and going through it, similar to like Daniel Jones at this time. Granted, Daniel's not a rookie, but so it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how he responds to this, because it's going to be. It doesn't look like it's going to get better this year unless he puts it on his shoulders and really starts to take a step each week to improve himself. Because offensively, it just doesn't seem to be clicking. But at the same time, if he takes those single steps, if he takes it upon himself to do those, ultimately, I think that's going to translate. Because I was speaking to, like, if he starts learning how to win from the pocket, learns to start, hey, okay, if I take a sack here while not trying to scramble or anything, maybe that helps me get settled to understand that I need to win from this pocket. It can surround me. It can start collapsing upon me, but I need to make the decisions from within in order to succeed. And it gives the offensive line confidence in their own play, and it just trickles down. So like, hopefully he can right this ship. Hopefully the actually, no, I don't care for the Chicago Bears. So hopefully they don't figure it out. But, if I were a third party person, just a fan of the NFL, like Rob Lowe wearing the hat, then I would be like, hey, I hope they right the ship.
Go teams, all teams. There you go. I support the NFL. No, we're neutral third party experts here. Mike, as a member of Gen Z, just like Caleb Williams, do you think that the fingernail polish is to blame for all of this downfall?
I 100% blame the fingernail polish and that mentality. That's why he's got no respect in the locker room. That's why they want to get this undrafted rookie to take his spot. You can't. No one wants to catch a ball. No receiver wants to catch a ball from a quarterback that just threw it with polish on his nails.
Catching. Oh, there's fingernail polish on there.
Oh, yeah. I don't want this. I don't want to catch this.
And that is why that's why they are having such struggles thrown through here. I mean, this kind of, we got to talk about just rookie quarterbacks on the broad scale here. The other rookie quarterbacks, speaking of Caleb's, here's the total touchdowns right now among rookie quarterbacks. Caleb's right in the middle at 3. He's behind both Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. So a little bit of revisionist history here. Okay. We're 10 games into the 2024 season. Scott, if you are redrafting, going back to last spring with the information that you have now and what you've seen from these rookie quarterbacks so far, who do you take?
This is a tough one because it's easy to just quickly say Jaden Daniels because he looks like he might be a good version or a carbon copy of what Lamar was, but he's performing at such a high level at an organization that, as we're speaking to the Bears and the Browns and those garbage organizations, it's not like Washington's been all that much better over the past year. So the fact that he has brought them out of the darkness that was the Commanders' past couple of years, it is incredible to see. All that said, I think with all the pieces that are around them, you have to include the entirety of the situation. I'm leaning toward taking Bo Nix here, much higher. And I know that all matters where the Broncos were in the draft and everything like that. Would they have taken him if they were higher? Who knows? But I think it just makes sense right now with all the pieces, all the coaching staff, the organization. It seems like Sean Payton has got them on the right track, and it's very clear if they're in the hunt for the playoffs here, which is incredible to say based off of last year's utter disaster of a season. So I would probably lean toward Bo. But when push comes to shove, I might pull the trigger on Jaden just because of what we've seen from him. It's impressive.
Oh, it's super impressive, dude. Dude, did you hear that the Bears they turned down Cliff Kingsbury? Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury ended up going to Washington. He's the OC there. He's working with Jaden Daniels, and he's having a fantastic rookie campaign. They're sitting at 7-2. The Bears could have had Cliff Kingsbury, who coached Caleb Williams in college, could have been an absolutely ideal scenario. He's the quarterback whisperer.
Yeah.
And that's just another, I mean, I know hindsight's 2020 with all this stuff, but so many of these decisions from the Bears organization seem to keep stacking up, and they're just so incriminating against them. I like what you say, Scott, about kind of deciding between Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, because I'm with you. I think Jaden so far has shown Jaden on the field has been more impressive to me so far, but I think that Bo Nix is going to continue to progress. Bo Nix actually started out pretty slow, but he's made great progress here. And then when we not to take anything away from what the Washington Commanders have done this year so far, because it's been absolutely incredible, a huge turnaround. But if we look here at the teams that they have beat, Giants, okay, the Bengals, that one was impressive early on, but we've seen the Bengals actually having a lot of woes. Arizona, Cleveland, recently Carolina, Chicago, and New York. So some of these recent wins kind of in the second half of these first 10 games here, I mean, of course they're wins, and winning the NFL is very, very difficult. But is there potential fraud alert for the Washington Commanders, dare I say?
Well, first off, I am not appreciative of the way in which you said Cleveland. But on top of that, I would say there's probably some truth in this. I always take it with a grain of salt with organizations that come out of from nothing to something the following year. It's the old ways are going to creep back in some way, shape, or form, because it's not fully extracted from the organization. So I am still holding out judgment on the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. One, because of that reason. And then two, like, look, Jaden, for how well he's playing, he's still a rookie. So there will be, unless he's even better than CJ and going to be something incredible moving forward, you got to imagine that there's going to be a moment where he fumbles, for lack of a better term, in some way, shape, or form, and it might cost the team their opportunity. So, for how well he's playing, I'm still like, I don't ever put all my eggs in one basket when we're talking about a rookie, because it's inevitable that something's going to crop up and a stick is going to fly in their spoke of the bike right now. So that's my take, but don't you dare say Cleveland like that ever again.
How did I say Cleveland? What did I do?
Just your tone, just so condescending. I heard it.
Cleveland. Oh. Scott, I think that you're reading into this. You're a little sensitive, obviously, because of the circumstances.
I heard it.
Yeah. Mike, you're supposed to be on my side, okay? All right. I will watch how I say the word Cleveland around you, Scott. I know this is a safe space. We're here in a safe space, and we'll be nice with our tones. Scott needs a safe space. Okay, there we go. Moving on to a little bit more positivity with quarterback situations. Not that some of that rookie quarterback stuff is not positive, but the Caleb stuff and the Bear stuff is a little bit grim. Chargers with the man himself, Jim Harbaugh, and let's see. I'm going to pull this up, and we're going to watch just how hype Jim Harbaugh is and how great he is.
Balls are coming out good. I suck today.
No, you're good. We're going to get it.
My bad. Balls are coming out. They're coming out good. Spinning good, Justin. Wow. Coming out clean, huh?
Dude, he's awesome. Jim Harbaugh is so awesome, and he is just talk about a culture builder. This is a guy that has done it multiple times at the college level and the NFL level. I mean, like, he did that at Stanford. He did it in San Francisco, the 49ers, with Michigan now. And we're already seeing just in the first half of the season here with the Chargers, kind of the flip in culture. And this is just kind of what an awesome guy to play for. Scott, what are your thoughts on Harbaugh and the situation with the Chargers?
Look, he's winning me over. There was always I'm always skeptical of coaches, especially when they're very rah-rah, but it's clear that this guy actually means what he says, regardless of how quirky he may be. Like, he is invested through and through. And to your point there, he's a culture builder. Like, he's done it at multiple places and he's won. He has gone through the tough times. Like, you can point to Michigan. Those first couple of years were brutal, dude. Absolutely brutal. But to bring them from that point all the way to the national championship, absolutely incredible. And when he was with the 49ers, he brought him to the Super Bowl, nearly won that. And he was just a winner before he got let go. And like, there's an element of like, when a guy comes in like this with a specific type of energy, some businessmen or suits may not be able to handle that sort of back and forth because he's just a quirky character. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how quirky he is. It matters how he connects with the players. At every single place he's been, he connects with the players in some way that's just different, dude. Him and his brother, who's cut from the same cloth, right? Approach it a little differently. Like, John has a little bit different approach than Jim, but clearly these guys have their heads screwed on straight. They know how to be leaders of men. They know how to connect with these dudes. Because we were mentioning earlier, it's like, can you connect with a grown man with kids and a family to provide for in a very merit-based, violent game? Are you able to do that and then motivate them to go out and win? Jim Harbaugh is just the quintessential coach, it looks like, and he's the perfect dude for culture. He's clearly shown that in a way that the Bears haven't shown. Like, they went out to get the flash and all of the tools and all the big names and everything like that for Caleb Williams, but did they shore up the offensive line like Jim Harbaugh did when he went in and got good old Joe Alt from Notre Dame to make sure that his quarterback Herbert was protected at all times and build out the defensive line, make sure that Khalil Mack and Bosa each had their contracts solidified going into the season? Like, he's clearly got his priorities in line, right, for building that culture. And each move he makes, he brings in people that can help build that and help take guys to the next level, right? He's there to make sure the ship is run properly, and it's awesome to see.
Dude, I love what you said right there, because going back to the Bears, not to keep coming back and bashing on the Bears, but yeah, the Chargers taking Joe Alt in the top 10, a big left tackle who's shoring up that offensive line for Justin Herbert. The Bears, they had 2 top 10 picks, right? They had Caleb Williams, they got their quarterback, and then they got Rome Odunze at 9, which, granted, I mean, he's a great football player, but they already had talent in that wide receiver room, and we're seeing all of the woes they have on offensive line. Another kind of hindsight decision here, like, hey, why did the Chicago Bears not shore up their offensive line to protect their new rookie quarterback? And here we see the Chargers doing just this. Check this out. We've been talking about culture here. And, you know, we talk a lot. We talked about Dan Campbell and now Jim Harbaugh. They've got kind of 2 different personalities, but you can sense and you can tell that they're authentic. They're being their authentic self. And that's kind of what's connecting with people. Check this out. This is the case for culture right here. Okay. This is teams, special teams and turnover, points gotten off special teams and turnovers here. So in the top right, we see these teams that have gotten the most special teams points and the most points off turnovers. And it's the Steelers, it's the Lions, and it's the Chargers. And you would argue, you know, getting points on special teams, playing hard on special teams is absolutely a culture thing. And these coaches are establishing that. And we're seeing that here with the numbers on kind of on you know, special teams, sometimes the forgotten third of the game. And these coaches establishing that. And we're seeing that here in the numbers. Does this surprise you at all?
It doesn't surprise me, strictly because we know who those 3 head coaches are and what sort of culture they've built. Tomlin's been there for 20 years. He's built the Steeler way through and through, or he's continued. He grabbed the torch and continued to run with it, and has done a great job at doing that. You got Dan Campbell, which we talked about last episode. You know, he's a player's coach through and through because he was a player and he gets it. But he knows how to motivate dudes. And then, like we were just talking about, Jim Harbaugh, like none of this surprises me whatsoever, because when these guys say the 3 phases of the game actually matter, they will be able to articulate that and help motivate those the special teams and the defense to produce just as much as the offense may be, and they're on even level. Whereas, like, you know, to your point about like the Bears just grabbing, hey, let's get the flashiest players, even though we shored up the weapons with like taking Keenan Allen from the Chargers, and getting a couple more weapons there on the offensive side. Like, the decisions that are made within those organizations are rearing their ugly head right now. But these 3, like, they've seemingly got on track, or at least headed in the right direction.
Do any of these spots surprise you at all? I'm looking here at San Francisco. I mean, on the last show, we were talking about how San Francisco missed 3 field goals, and we see them there on the far left. They're they're like the second worst in the league on scoring points on special teams. Did any of these surprise you?
I mean, yeah, the Niners, I would be curious to see where they were prior to last week's game. But the bottom left quadrant, not surprising whatsoever. Actually, I take that back. The Falcons being there, for how good the Falcons are leading their division, that is a little surprising. Yeah. But hey, that's an ode and testament to good old Kirk Cousins, Mikey's best friend down there.
That's my buddy.
You go, Mike.
He doesn't care about special teams.
Yeah,
Nick, this is a great chart you found. Where'd you find this little chart?
He drew
the
it.
internet.
Did you draw this?
Thanks. I draw. Can we do some more drawings? I found this on the internet.com. You know, I'm just looking for charts all the time. So there we go. Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the bottom left quadrant is just the garbage. That's Scott, as you say, the dumpster fire squads, the Jets, the Giants, Titans are brutal. Yeah, just the Falcons, a little bit of a surprise right there. All right, so that's what we got. Everyone, work hard on special teams, run down on punt, okay? Set up on kickoff return. Oh, God, those are the worst. Kickoff return was the worst.
Front line, kickoff return. Freshman year at Oregon State, I got pancaked every time. Never once made my block.
Every time.
I was just trying to get taken off of it. So
did they take you off?
Okay, front line, kickoff return is an impossible block. You turn your back, you're running down 20 yards, sprint, and then turn around and then just catch a guy who's at a 30-yard sprint build-up. There's nothing you can do.
It is just catch him in your chest. That's it.
It's just a die slow death block. Yeah. It's crazy.
Ridiculous ask. And for that reason, that I am now in favor of the NFL's new kickoff rule, because that was just a ridiculous thing to put people through. I mean,
interesting. I mean,
right?
I'm surprised we haven't talked about this yet. The new kickoff.
True. You know what? Okay. Let's talk about this just for a minute. We got to go to college football in a second, but let's just cut 2 minutes on the kickoff rule. What do you think about it? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, we got to talk about this. 10 games in plus the preseason. Look, it's become second nature, I guess, now at this point, where I'm not like appalled by seeing it, but at the same time, I don't know. It does feel like a step back for the game of football. But from the player's perspective, I completely agree with you. Like, being in front line, that block is the wildest thing you could ever ask. Like, I would honestly just rather go straight at the dude from the get-go as opposed to running back 25 yards and then catch
horrible whiff.
Like, darn it. At least you see where he's going, and as opposed to turning around and like he's already under your chin, right? You're just eating it.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings, but it's become second nature to me now, to where it doesn't bother me as much. I just, I'm concerned about what it means for the future of, one, special teams, especially the kicking game in football, and then two, what that means for like the ability to change so drastically the game that we've grown to love. And so like that's my biggest concern, but it doesn't make me want to vomit now that I see it.
The formation of it looks like a Civil War formation when they would just stand and load their muskets. They wouldn't even try to dodge anything. It was just about who could reload faster. That's what it looks like.
Go. Time
out. I have to reload.
The Civil War kickoff formation. It's good. It's an ode to
it's
an ode to America's past. That's good. We got to get a graphic of that just lined up. That was a stupid way to do war. All right, so there we go. I'm with you on that, Scott. We've been doing it out here in Europe, in the European League of Football. So they've been doing it. They plucked that a couple years ago, and so I'm way more used to it. And it does. I'm not sure exactly the stats on the NFL so far this year, but I believe it creates more kickoff return touchdowns, which is exciting and fun for the fans. So if I'm correct on that stat, then, let's just, I feel like it does.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
It was my understanding.
All right. The way I understood it was. All right, we got to talk about college football. I know we can talk about NFL all day. Let's pop into college ball. Top 25 rankings out here. And just Oregon Ducks still at number one. I mean, can we do something about that? There is a little bit of drama here with the top 25 rankings. Some SEC people are a little bit upset, especially when they're looking at, number 12, Georgia, 11, Ole Miss, number 10, Alabama. And I saw a couple people chirping on Twitter or X. Do we really think that Bama, Georgia, and Ole Miss are not as good as Notre Dame, BYU, and Indiana?
Hey.
And I know we have to respect the teams that have one loss or no losses in BYU and Indiana's case. But is this a reflection of reality with these rankings? What do you think?
Look, okay. I'm a Notre Dame fan through and through. You guys will learn that over the course of this show. I have to be honest with myself and say that the fact that we're at the position we are is probably a little bit bloated. We should not be in this position. Alabama is a far superior team, as we've seen over the years. Ole Miss is right there. I think it would be a close game between Notre Dame and Ole Miss, but hey, look, they have some W's that I don't think Notre Dame would sniff this year. So it's tough for me to say that as a fan, but it's just reality. And like, I'm so jaded over the past, I don't know, my whole entire lifetime, actually. Every time that they're highly ranked, they always get smashed, and it's just so embarrassing. Even though I have no tie outside of my parents having gone there, it's just, I can't. It's just brutal.
That's a tie.
But ultimately,
that's a good tie.
Scott's life as a football fan has just been filled with misery and disappointment.
I know.
Despair. You should try a bandwagon. Just be a bandwagon fan.
Scott,
pick a better team.
We approve you
enough
to go
of this
bandwagon
loyalty through thick and thin.
No, that's the thing, is I'm loyal to a fault in this regard, and it is, but there's an element of like, I don't even remember the term for it, but there's an enjoyment. I like that. I know my team. Ultimately, when it does happen and we hit the top, it's going to be just pure elation, and I'm going to be so happy. But it's going to be such a slog until we get there. I'm just waiting for that moment. And look, okay.
If John Mellencamp ever wins an Oscar,
I'm going to be a very rich man. I really hope that our viewers watch The Office and get how funny that joke was. Very funny. Here we see the probabilities for all of the teams to make the playoff. Indiana with 93. I know that they're undefeated right now, but I'm not necessarily I'm sorry, Scott. I'm not necessarily so
you don't
impressed
have to apologize to me
with any of their wins. Well, I mean, you got mad at me when I said Cleveland, so I'm just kind of tiptoeing on eggshells here. I don't want to offend you again.
Just anything outside of Chicago. Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Don't you dare. So here, let's just take a look real quick at their. All right, here's their schedule. Here. I mean, okay, these are great. They're undefeated, right? No ranked wins. And I know some of these programs are still quality programs. Washington's a quality program. Michigan's a great program. But does this scare you at all? I mean, we were talking about the Commanders in the NFL being possibly on fraud alert. Are the Hoosiers on fraud alert?
Look, there's real possibility that they are, especially this upcoming week. We're going to really find out who they are. They had a great win last week against Michigan. They squeaked it out for all intents and purposes against the Michigan team who's been sliding as of late. I think Michigan started 4-1 and has since just fallen apart. Wheels are off that wagon. But anyway, IU pulling it out last week was still impressive. The one thing you're right. I think their strength of schedule is like 103rd or 108th or something like that, which is pretty bad, especially when you're ranked this high. But really, we're gonna find out who they are against Ohio State, and it's gonna be a tough sledding for them. But if they compete against Ohio State, I think they're more than deserving to be where they're at. It just all hinges on next week. And that's the cool thing is like Cignetti, the coach there, the new coach, first year coach, he's brought a different energy. He's a dude from Pittsburgh. He's got like grit in his blood. And I feel like he's gotten these dudes ready to go because I always feel like Big Ten schools, they have this innate, again, grit to them. And I just feel like a lot of different organizations don't necessarily mind that as much as they should. But it looks like Indiana and Coach Cignetti has found the right formula and the right cadence for his team and organization to go ahead and call it exploit that innate grittiness of the people. So it's cool to see, but
that Midwestern grit, man, there's something there. Midwest grit. It's real. You guys, something in the corn or whatever you guys have in there in that Midwest. You're right, though. If they are competitive, at least with Ohio State, if it is a reasonable game, then I'm going to be a believer. So it's just, so far, none of these have put me over the edge. We do have.
It was like Miami last week, right?
True.
Like they got caught with their pants down. So this is a test week for IU, and I think a couple teams are actually going to face this week, Notre Dame included, even though they're playing Virginia.
We got to pull up. This is one of the funniest memes that I've seen this week, and this is the beauty of the college football playoff potential. Alabama football fans in Bloomington, Indiana in December. If they end up having to play Alabama in the college football playoffs, this is an iconic meme right here. I mean, that's Hillary Clinton walking into like a not so rich person's apartment. This is a hilarious meme of Hillary Clinton being shocked at the nature of this person's apartment.
Oh my gosh,
this is going to be Alabama and Alabama fans if they have to play at Indiana in the college football playoff.
The beauty of this is the fact that Mikey, a Gen Zer, asked who that is. That's how out of touch Democrats are.
Gosh, Mike,
I'm not plugged into the, pop culture and all that crap.
Yeah, you're right. Good.
I don't have time for that.
That's good. I think that's a good thing, Mike. Good for you. Good for you. All right, there you go. So that's what we got right there on the rankings. Interesting thing from this last weekend, because it was Veterans Day. This is very, very special. For the first time since 2010, all 3 service academies, one on Veterans Day. Congrats to the service academies. Actually, our brother plays against, he plays at Oregon State, and they're playing against Air Force this weekend.
Ooh.
They are not as formidable as Army and Navy are this year, I'd say, but let's see. Oregon State is also not very formidable as well. Scott, I wanted to ask you, because you guys have some family history with the Service Academy and the Naval Academy. I've always wondered, what in the world is it like to play football at one of these academies? Because we all know how difficult and crazy college football schedule is and the time commitment and everything. But on top of that, when you go to these service academies, you have all of the military aspect as well that you have to do.
Yeah.
How difficult and how crazy is this?
Look, this is all through the grapevine and anecdotal. So ultimately, like, you and I experienced a different sort of collegiate football environment and 4 years than a lot of other people at Division I AA or Division I A, right? Because you went to Georgetown, I went to Yale. So there are academics, the academic requirements of student athletes is arguably, but also not arguably, at a higher level than a majority of organizations and programs out there, right? So we had that to deal with alongside, as you were speaking to right there, the just intensity of the football schedule, right? So you got film, you got workouts, you got conditioning, you got practice, all of these things, not to mention the games, all of these, and travel, all of these things just stack up to where it's very difficult to find a way to compartmentalize your life and go ahead and succeed at the highest level you can as a student, as a person, and developing your knowledge and the way in which you're going to live the life that you're building there. So like, it's incredible, like, to extrapolate that out and add on top of it the duties and responsibility of being a service member of the United States military, whatever branch it is, right? So any of these, like, the level of requirements and dedication you have to compartmentalize even more so is I honestly am floored by the way in which these guys can do it and perform at the level that they are, especially this year. So, you know, you're talking about when you're coming in as a plebe at the Naval Academy or coming in as a first year freshman at any of the other 2 institutions, you're going through what is essentially boot camp. On top of that, you're going through football camp, which, like, for the normies, or at least the athletes, that's boot camp for us. So you're doubly going through it, and you're getting absolutely eviscerated. So you're probably having to eat like 2x the calories that you normally would as a football player in order to keep up. And then you're also learning academically before school even starts, just the ins and outs of what the military is and the ins and outs of what the playbook is. So everything is just stacking. So I have a huge amount of respect for any athlete at any of these institutions, because the level of commitment and the level of responsibility that is put on your plate as a young man or a young woman is second to none. So like, it is really cool to see Navy and Army doing as well as they are, and shout out to Air Force for playing.
Shout out to Air Force. Yeah, hey, they won this weekend, dude. I mean, it's unbelievable just kind of hearing what it's like. I mean, we know how intense going through college football and college football camp is, and all the workouts and everything. That in itself is insane. Then you couple that with, of course, like the academic side of things, very, very difficult. Then you throw on all these other commitments and just the environment and everything you've got to do. Wildly impressive. So way to go to them. What'd you guys call? So you guys at Yale, you called people that didn't play sports, you called them normies?
There were a multitude of words. So normies, muggles,
muggles. That's what we did. We did muggles at Georgetown.
Yeah, we were more normies.
Nick, at Hotchkiss, they call them NARPs.
Yeah, NARP is another
non-athlete, regular person, right? I know NARPs. Yeah, freaking NARPs, man. NARPs. All right, so there we go. Good job to the service academies on Veterans Day. This is very indulgent of me, and I just want to put this up for a second because look at this. Okay, as a film guy, look at this shot, and that's Indiana, isn't it, Scott?
Mm-hmm. That's Bloomington, baby. Granted, look, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I'm not an IU fan. I grew up with a lot of IU fans around, but
I know. It's still your state. Okay, so I just want to nerd out on that. A little bit. All right, so that's what we got. Beautiful. Thank you. I just wanted to be validated in my appreciation. I went to film school for 1 semester. Okay, it's my blood.
I love it.
All right, we have got to touch on this dude this basketball player. This is one of the most inspiring things that I've seen in a while. Check this out. Hansel and Manuel. This dude is playing basketball, collegiate basketball. He has one arm. We see him right there dunking. Dude. He's averaging 21 minutes a game, 85% field goal percentage. He's averaging 5 points and 6 rebounds a game. Truly, and if anyone is just listening, you have to watch this clip. One arm. And you know what I learned? He was not born with this. So I think that, of course, if you are born with missing a limb, that's difficult enough in itself, but you are used to that your entire life. You've never known anything differently. This dude got into an accident at age 6. A cinder block fell on his arm and trapped him under there for 2 hours, ended up having to amputate it. And then he ended up staying in the hospital for 6 months. So he lived the first part of his life with 2 arms. And then now he's had to adjust and to get himself to fight through all that and get himself to be good enough at basketball to play collegiate basketball is absolutely insane. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Look, we covered a clip, I think it was last week, about why sports are so beautiful, right? This is another example of why sports are incredible. Like, it shows a determination and commitment that this guy has made. And yeah, he may have grown up with both arms, but the fact that he was able to fight through that adversity at such a young age and find a way to be successful at the thing that he clearly loves is so impressive. And like, you can only do that in sports and bring it to life in a specific type of way. No, it's incredible to have to go through that at 6 years old. It was 6, right? Did I hear that right?
Yeah. 6 years old, dude.
Dude, insane. Like, think about you at 6, like losing your arm. Like, you remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's super inspiring. And I think that you cannot look at this, whether you're a sports fan or not, and not be so impressed and so inspired, because what like this dude represents and just sheer determination and fighting through adversity. And that's just like you said, man, that's one of the beautiful things about sports. So we're big Hansel and Manuel fans.
I got to stop making so many excuses in my life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah. I mean,
fine. I'll take responsibility. I have 2 arms.
This guy has, you got 2 arms and 2 legs. You can do it, Mike. Wow. He has forced even you, an offensive football player, to take responsibility. It's incredible.
It's impressive.
So everyone, just get inspired by that, okay? And you know,
maximizing his God-given talents.
Exactly. And to do that with 1 arm, impressive. We take a lot for granted. On a serious note, we take a lot for granted, and this dude is absolute inspiration. So thank you, Emmanuel. Sticking on basketball, Klay Thompson. This was a little bit emotional. Going back to Golden State to play against his former team, his first time as a Maverick, going back to Golden State to play, because he was there for 13 years, I believe.
Yeah,
with the Warriors.
Career.
Like, obviously those guys, I mean, they went through, they won all those championships together. Him and Steph Curry kind of like redefined the game of basketball in this modern era together. So he's just an iconic part of that organization. So he went back, and it was kind of a little bittersweet moment for him, because, this is a new era for him, but he just got such a warm welcome back there in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, Scott?
Yeah, it's a little surreal to see the Splash Bros on opposite sides of the court, and on different benches. Like, this is the end of an era. What happened over the summer with Klay jumping over to the Mavs and joining up with Luka. But it was cool to see them kind of compete, because that the friendship between him and Steph Curry is like, they're like brothers at this point. I mean, even aside the moniker that they share, the Splash Bros. But it's really cool to see this kind of competition. And the beauty of it is like, they're both wildly competitive dudes. So like, I'm excited to see how they continue to play against one another and how they perform separate from one another, as especially Steph's career is kind of coming into its twilight, or coming toward the end, or at least by age, we can assume that. Yeah. And then Klay kind of doing the same. It's always bittersweet to see dudes who have been this close separate. But at the end of the day, the two guys to really do this and do it well and like have respect for one another, as opposed to all of the bad stories that are out there of relationships crumbling between what were once great friends. You know, you had the Kobe Shaq hyper competitors. This is unique, right? You have two guys who are hyper competitors that ended up remaining friends and just love to go at it with one another. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's another very cool moment in sports. Look at us ending the show with two really, really nice, emotional, uplifting stories. That's why this show is the best show. Mikey, this would be like if you and I played against each other or played with each other on the Unicorns, and then we separated and you played for a different team, and then we played against each other and I beat you, and but it was still really nice.
And then I win.
Okay.
And then we're no longer on speaking terms. We speak through lawyers.
We're no longer on speak.
Oh, you turned into the Rogers brothers.
That's sort of the dude. That's sad. We got to get into that on one of these shows. The Rogers brothers.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the Rogers brothers?
Aaron Rodgers and his family are estranged.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's sad to hear because I mean clearly. Like they have what looks to be a close knit family on the other side of Aaron, and it's just like I'm always curious to see what happened there. But I don't think.
Did you actually see? There was his brother was on like the Bachelorette or one of them Bachelorette.
Oh yeah.
And the woman asked him about his family, and he kind of revealed a little bit about it on that TV show there, and it kind of went viral. That was a few years ago. But yeah, it's been. I'm
learning something about. I'm learning something about Nick here.
I didn't watch The Bachelorette. I heard that. So, I heard that from our other brother,
Sure.
Mikey. Back me up. You know who watches The Bachelorette in our family? It's Anthony.
No, I walked in and you were watching it. Remember?
No, Mike.
And you were taking notes, and you said, "I'm going to be on the show someday." You were saying all these things.
Told you that in confidence.
I love the show.
All right, there we go. I think it. You know what? I think I have to go now. Okay, I think that's the end of our show. That's a perfect end.
Wrap it up.
I do have to say one thing though. Call this a mini second wind, but
okay.
I have to give a rest in peace shout out to the former Notre Dame football coach Gerry Faust. Incredible man. While it may have been a rough go at Notre Dame, the man that was leading the helm of the Fighting Irish back in the early to mid 80s was an incredible person. I got to know him through my family. He coached my father and actually introduced my parents to one another in the Notre Dame grotto, or at least met my mom in the Notre Dame grotto, and then had my dad call her the next day. So there's a debt of gratitude that I owe Gerry Faust, because I wouldn't be here today if he didn't somehow connect my parents while in the grotto and at Notre Dame. And my dad has always spoken incredibly highly of him and just the character and leadership and just good heart that he brought to the table each and every day. So rest in peace, Gerry.
There we go. Hey, that's awesome, dude. I did not know that. That is fantastic. This guy is a legend. Yeah. That's so cool. Rest in peace, Gerry Faust. Legend in college football and a legend for the Williams family. And if Scott wasn't here because of Gerry Faust, then this show wouldn't be happening. So you, as the viewer, have Gerry Faust to thank as well for this fantastic show that we brought you today.
Thanks, Gerry.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. There it is. So same time on next week. No, on Friday. Same time on Friday.
Nicholas.
There we go.
I beg your pardon?
You know, it's late here. It's a time difference, you know.
Weeks are shorter in Europe.
Weeks are shorter. I'm on European time. Okay.
Oh.
All right, guys. Whoops. Good stuff. See you on Friday.
Did I do better at standing still in the frame this time?
We're going to talk about it, Mike. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Thanks. Yeah. See ya.
See ya.